Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Eric the Cosmic Wizard, and today I want to talk about forgiveness. And this is something that is very important to me. It's something that I have been trying to integrate more into myself, my life. Forgiveness for just myself, for those who I believe did me wrong and whatever. And what forgiveness really means, because we always hear, like, oh, forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you, and blah, 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 blah. And like, yeah, that's true and all, but like, it's still, I've been in situations, right, where I knew that like forgiveness would make me feel better, but it was hard. It's hard to forgive people, and it's because forgiveness is not an act, but waking up from the illusion of separation. And that is a quote that I found from this book. It's a really good book. It's called A Course in Miracles. Um, it does have a lot of, I would say, Christian like undertones, but not necessarily Christian. And it is reference God a lot. So if you want to, like, take out the word God and put creator, it does kind of give you like a Bible esque feel. Let's say Holy Spirit. So it's very much, from like a Christian point of view, but it's meant to be more secular in nature, where it's not so religion heavy. But this is a book that I got a few years ago, and oh, it does say by New Christian Church in full. Anyway, I'm not a Christian, but I'm also not against Christianity or anything like that. I love all religions, and I definitely think that this is something everybody should look into, because it does have a lot of really good moments. And that's actually one of the really good things I like about Christianity was the aspect of Jesus speaking of forgiveness and things like that, because forgiveness is so important, because it is something that allows us to accept what we cannot change about ourselves, the situations that we find ourselves in, and it's a way for us to be happy and move on. While moving on is a lot harder, and it's not always easy to move on, right? Especially when the hurt is so deep, right? When you just feel like the person has completely done you dirty. This person has absolutely no remorse, and they don't even care. I've been in situations where narcissistic abusers, man, like they really know how to fuck your brain up, and it's so traumatic. It could even be not even like a very long term situation. I dated someone for a very short time, and they were narcissistic, and they completely destroyed me, and it was awful. It was awful, 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 awful experience. But looking back at it, I had to forgive him, because I had to. I had to, because I literally could not sleep at night. I remember just being so angry, because not only was this person essentially kind of kicking me out of where I was living at the time, but this person had like cajoled me into moving out of my place into their place just so they could kick me out whenever they got angry. And it was very much that dismissive, discarding, narcissistic behavior, where it made me want to just fight even harder. I don't know why. I guess because that was just the perfect victim. But it wasn't until like something really, 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 really terrible happening that involved me going to the hospital, where I was like, yeah, this isn't good. And I started going to therapy, because I realized that like I have a problem with boundaries and letting people treat me however I want. And so in that moment, I was still putting a lot of the onus and all things on me. And I wasn't forgiving, but I also was putting on way too much. And I think that's sometimes what we do sometimes. We do the opposite of forgiving. We internalize and we make it, oh, I did this. I caused this on myself. And that's not always the case. while forgiveness is so important, and without forgiveness, we cannot evolve to our next spiritual, step. It doesn't make it easy. And sometimes you have to repeat certain situations with different people in order to figure out how to finally forgive whatever that person, whoever it is, or event, or whatever it was that happened to you. And I can just thinking about it, I'm still having a hard time forgiving them, right? But I can look back and I can say, as shitty as that situation was, if I had any type of hatred, I think it would have been a lot worse. I just, in that instant moment when I was in that hospital, basically I was in an abusive relationship and someone broke my arms. And the healing process, they broke my arms, they left me, they kicked me out, all within like a couple of days. And I'm so fortunate to have the friends I had who were able to help me because I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to tell my family any of this. So just a little bit of the context of like why this is so hard for me and how I learned how to forgive this person. And I should say learning because there are times when I think about, and even though this was like almost 10 years ago when I was 25, but to this day, I think about that person, and we only were together for maybe 4 to 5 months, but that was like the most intense. I mean, like intense. And that's what narcissistic people are. They're very intense, and they live life very intensely. And it seems alluring, and it was really fun at times, but it was just so, like, looking back at it, there was like, red flags galore, right? But I was young. I didn't know any better. I wanted something that was, better, and this seemed like a really good situation, but it wasn't. And this person ended up being very abusive and hurtful, and me forgiving them, or at least trying to forgive them, was a way for me to kind of like focus more on like the physicality of like having broken arms, being in like this situation because I couldn't ruminate on all the crap that that person did. I chose to kind of like, I need to just walk away and forgive this person for my sanity. And I remember feeling like that. I remember the moment I was laying in my room in my new place with my roommates, and I was just like, this person's like living their best life still. They're still going to work and da 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 da. And I was just like, I have to forgive this person. I have to move on. I have to just accept whatever happened. And maybe accepting isn't necessarily the same as forgiving. I think forgiveness and acceptance kind of work together. In order to forgive someone, you have to accept what has happened. I had to accept that this person who I was in love with and was going to be with forever, in like this very short time, had love bombed me, manipulated me, used me, abused me, and then discarded me. And after all of that, I still was very much like, I forgave that person before I forgave myself for even like allowing someone to like do these things to me. I had such shame about being like this abused victim, and I remember being like, I don't understand how people get abused. Like I would just leave. Like I would never let somebody put their hands on me, especially as a dude, another dude. Like why would you let somebody beat you up and then you don't realize that like it's not that simple. It's not like they just show up on day one hitting you and shit. It's not until weeks when you're already in it, and then this the way that it happens. It's the it was always packaged as um oh well, he claimed that he had not bipolar. Um, actually, no, I stand correct. He proclaimed that he had bipolar disorder. While I don't believe that he had bipolar. I think he more in line with borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder. And like, there's no real like gene marker for those things that at least that I know of. And like, there are psychological and their personality disorders, right? So that's a very subjective thing to begin with. So it was just easier for me. I know this is probably like not all about forgiveness, but this is my story about a time when it was really hard for me to forgive someone. And I need to tell you guys this story so you can understand that I'm not just sitting here like just spouting off shit that I find in books and telling people. I have to do this for me, and I hope that this helps people. And if that sounds selfish, that's what it is, but I don't think it is. It's really hard for me to come out here online and tell my story, and um, I'm just gonna let the video go where it needs to go. I have notes up here that I've kind of been hitting and not going through all the time, but sometimes when I just get in the mood to talk, I just start talking, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It's okay. Forgive me. But I saying all of this to say this, that I was in a really bad situation with someone for not so long of a time, and even though the time together was a lot shorter than the outcome and the amount of pain and suffering that I have experienced, as much as I still think about this person, I do find it. I'm I'm not so much angry with them. They are their worst enemy. Being that person, having that personality disorder, isn't something I would ever want to wish on someone. Not to make it light, not to say that all people with BPD or narcissism, well, narcissists are kind of crap. They're crappy people, or they don't deserve compassion. But if those things didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be who I am today. So as much as I hate to say, your those traumas make you a better person, they can, or they can help you become just like your abuser, right? Because that's what abusers are. Abusers are just people who are just perpetual victims in some way, shape, or form. It's your fault I do this to you. And it was very much like that too. It was always my fault. I got him angry. I did something that upset this person, and then they would get upset, and then when they would see how much they hurt me, it was still my fault because I got hurt, and they were upset because they did it. It was always my fault, and it was my fault for believing in that. So when I got to the final straw, forgiveness was the only thing that could get me to get out of bed and face the day. I couldn't just sit around and, oh, woe is me, I hate my life, and da 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 da. I mean, I went to work. I've had to like not focus on that, and I can say in a moment I didn't forgive them. Honestly, I did in some ways. I forgave that. I don't think they. It doesn't matter. I forgave the fact that it happened. I didn't necessarily forgive him for doing it. I didn't forgive why it happened, but I just had to accept it. And maybe acceptance and forgiveness were kind of intertwined back then to me. And I think a lot of it is still intertwined, right? So to me, forgiveness is accepting what has happened and knowing that you can't change it, and just having to find a way to move on. Forgiveness is something that you can only receive from within. You can't make someone forgive you. You can't make yourself feel forgiveness. As much as I tried to, I couldn't make myself feel forgiveness. It was a very slow process. There was lots of moments where I was finding myself just really angry because this person was living a life that I felt was too good for them, because they had this like persona of just being like really successful, and this person is really, monetarily successful. But throughout the years, I've noticed on social media, this person will try to come back and re-add me, and it's the whole narcissist circling around thing where they like circle around, like trying to see if you're still like interested and blah 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. And I thought forgiveness meant looking like nothing affected you. Boy, was I wrong. I thought that forgiveness was, this didn't hurt me, and I have no response to it. And that's not forgiveness, that's avoidance. So, forgiveness can look like so many other things. It can look like acceptance, it can sometimes be used as an excuse for avoidance. You know, oh well, you know what? My mom is always late, and she's always cutting me off when we have conversations, and instead of like bringing these like things to her attention, I just ignore them. That's avoidance. That's not forgiveness. You're like, I'm gonna take the high road. Oh, that's another one. Almost triggered me. People who always say, well, just take the high road. That's not necessarily forgiveness, because sometimes people need to know what they did, and they need to be held accountable. And forgiveness isn't wiping the slate clean. I mean, it kind of is, but it's more so, it's about you, really, right? So forgiveness isn't something that we do to make people like us. As a matter of fact, it's never about liking the person. I forgave my ex for what they did to me, but I do not like that person. I would never want to be around that person. I would never want to see that person. Um, I do not believe that that person will change, and I have compassion for the people who they have continued to harm. No, doubtably, they have never changed since I've known them, and before they have had a history of just 5 or 6 month relationships, and like they're so public, and it's in addition to forgiving that person, I want to also say I was also angry at the people around them who knew this person, because I was just I was walking into the spider's web, and all the other flies were just watching me do it. And it was like, better you than me, I guess. I don't know what it was, but I'm just so grateful for that experience. Honestly, as much pain as it caused me, it's a hell of a story to tell, and it's something that really, it helped me learn what narcissistic abuse in a very extreme way looks like, and how there's subtle things. I know y'all can hear that. I forgive them for being loud and annoying. I sound like Sarah Boone. I forgive you, which means I hate you. Anyway, forgiveness, gosh, forgiveness is just so powerful, and it's powerful because of what it can do for you, how it can literally change and alter your reality, right? When I said forgiveness is not an act, but waking up from the illusion of separation, what does that mean? The way it was described to me, I used to watch this YouTuber a lot back in the day, and he referenced a lot of the Course of Miracle things. And I didn't buy this book. Well, actually, this was given to me from a friend who was having a big book haul, and I was like, "Oh, I like that." And that anyway, forgiveness is so powerful, because until you forgive, you can't move on. Until you move on, you can't be happy. So until you truly forgive, and it's a cycle, right? It's not something that just happens overnight. And a lot of times I've been around people and myself where I thought I had forgiven them, only to find out that there was still resentment there. There was still some animosity. There was still, hatred, vitriol, all of that. And an example is so, like, the whole thing about narcissists are they like to keep tabs on their victims. And I'm going to call myself a victim. Not because I like identify with like victimhood mentality. It's just more appropriate to say that I was a victim in this situation, even though I was a willing participant kind of victim. Yeah, you get it. They like to keep tabs on their victims, right? And and it was very much like I didn't want to come off like the crazy, bitter, evil person. After all the emotional abuse and everything I went through, I still wanted to be like this. Oh, well, you broke my arms, and I had to move out after I already moved out of my place, out of your place. You pretty much tried to make me homeless and left me out to just live on my own. But I have people in my life who love me. I have family and I have friends, and people came in to help me because they know you. And like all of that, like I still was like, I'm not gonna let you see me hurt. You're not gonna hurt me. Like, mm-mm. And so like a year, some change after this, right? He hits me up. We go out, and I'm sitting there at the restaurant, and I'm like, I could do this. Like, I can act like there's nothing wrong, and like I don't miss you, and I don't care. We're just friends. Da, da, da. And then that evening, I was just like, it just hit me like all this like past resentment, all the, it was like the pain from like the broken arms and like just like the feelings and like all that just all came back, and I just started like texting like all these like hateful things. And I remember this was something like, oh, it felt like a knife in the heart at the moment. They responded with like, you are a loser. He called me a loser, and I'm sitting here smiling, but like that crushed me because I felt like a loser. And then I thought about it, and I was like, I'm not a fucking loser. I'm like not a loser by a long shot. I put myself through school. I graduated. I got a job. I have been taking care of myself since I was 18 successfully. You are a 40 something year old man child who needs to call his father every day so you don't have a fucking meltdown. Your 80-year-old dad, you have to talk to him every day so you don't have a meltdown, and daddy still comes and like bails you out and like does all this shit for you, and you're like in your 40s. And it's just like, you're the loser. You are the loser, dude. You're in your 40s beating up 25-year-olds. Every relationship you get with, see, I don't really sound like I have much forgiveness now, do I? But I'm just showing you that, like, it's so easy for someone to just manipulate our brains and to make us, and I just realized this. Him calling me a loser was just really how he feels about himself. Because after I said all that to him, and I did say all those things to him, crickets. And that's when I realized that I had beat the narcissist at his own game. Forgiveness. Not for them, but for me. Somehow this video is about surviving narcissists and forgiveness. So they kind of go hand in hand. But if you ever find yourself dealing with a narcissist and you want to feel like you win, or you want to actually like get out of like the narcissistic hold, forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgive them. Forgive yourself. And the reason why you have to forgive yourself is because this person tried to sell you something that you generally want, and they know that. And they were so good at trying to be that person that would be able to give it to you. But look at me. It doesn't matter if this person intentionally or unintentionally did what they did to hurt you. It hurt you. You have to move on. You have to forgive them because a narcissist, 99 of 100%, are never going to stop being who they are. They are fundamentally designed to be the way they are, in my opinion. I don't know. I think so. They're fundamentally designed to be who they are, and they have a purpose, and it is to spread misery and destruction to the world so that us empaths, and I know if you're watching this, you're probably an empath too, they just serve as the catalyst for us to come in to our power. They themselves feel so weak and powerless on the inside. The only way they can ever feel any power is to usurp those who are power. And you, as an empath, you are so powerful because not only do you care about like the well-being of like the world and other people, you actually have the ability to hold that compassion. Like a lot of people can't comprehend like that level of like compassion and love, right? There's so many people who have like if there's someone who I could think of who isn't as empathic had went through what I went through, it would have totally defeated them. And that's not to be rude or anything. Empathy, empaths and narcissists, like we are like the light to that fucking mosquito that is the narcissist, the empath. You are the light. You are literally light anyway because you're an empath. But those little dark succubus, incubus, whatever you want to call them, creatures are just really sound like I just have so much forgiveness for these people, right? I do. Because in reality, they don't forgive themselves. They hate themselves. They have to walk around knowing that what they did to people, you have to walk around and be like, wow, I hurt everybody who I come into contact with. Everybody I ever loved has a very negative story about me. Like that is not it's not a good way to live, right? And that's what the narcissist has to like ultimately comprehend one day. And maybe they never will in this lifetime, but that's exactly what they do. You walk around on this planet and you leave a fucking big ass trail of destruction. And then it's just that. And forgiveness is the only way that you can move forward. It really is. There is no way but to forgive. Like you cannot move forward. Truly, you can't. And lots of times, we do this thing, especially in the spiritual community. It's called spiritual bypassing. So basically, when we have a trigger, right, and that is requiring us to have some act of forgiveness or compassion, it could be so deeply like in our egoic mind and imprinted in us that we can't comprehend it and we do not want to forgive it. So we just, what's the word? Gosh, we try to bypass it. We try to just we'll say, oh, I forgive it, give it to light, give it to God, and we just move forward and we just put it out of our mind. And putting something out of our mind or choosing not to focus on it, kind of like what I did in my early stages with my narc ex, is just a form of spiritual bypassing. It's I can't comprehend this in this moment, and sometimes you have to do that just for like we have to live in the real world, right? I can't sit around and be moping and crying all day. I have to go to work. I have to do these things. I have to like shit has to get done, right? So spiritual bypassing is just like the spiritual form of just like neglecting your emotions. And like basically spiritual bypassing is you just claim that you forgive or you just move on from something without having to like process it. But spiritually, you're gonna find yourself hit with a bunch of like resentment, a bunch of anger and the negative feelings that you harbor. And they can manifest in very, 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 very inopportune ways, inopportune times with other people who don't deserve it. Um, Gosh, let me give you an example. So let's say you had a parent, right, who used to yell a lot, and you know, you forgive your parents, right, because they didn't, maybe they were just inexperienced or they had their own issues or it was just, whatever, right? If you don't come to terms with that and like how like that affected you, you could find yourself being a people pleaser or someone who is just like in life trying to make everyone happy. Stop it, poster. Don't you fucking fall down. I'm sorry, I was talking to my poster. Um, you could just find yourself just bypassing all that pain that you don't want to deal with. And so you kind of repeat the cycle. And so the universe will start throwing scenarios where like people are just really like just brass and just like, just brazen it, not good for you. And like it's like, okay, like here's that trigger of like people like being disrespectful, talking to you any kind of way. Are you gonna like stand up for yourself? Are you gonna actually learn how to forgive yourself from the past, from not being able to be in a situation where you could like advocate for yourself? Have you figured that out yet? And so, Spirit's going to be like, oh, here's a scenario where you need to practice forgiveness and acceptance to move on from the shit that happened in childhood. Are you going to like connect the dots from this scenario to the thing from childhood? Let's hope so. No? Okay, well, fuck it. We'll send you another one. And that's exactly what's going to happen. You'll just have to get another one. You'll just get another situation. Like, there is no way but through. Like, you cannot bypass this experience of humanity. You just have to go through it. As much as I like sometimes don't like being here, incarnated on this planet, I know I have to. I guess I don't have to, but I'm accepting it. Forgiveness, man. You just have to learn to forgive people. And so I'm kind of tired of talking. I feel like I've been rambling. I think I hit everything I want to talk about. Forgiveness has to be something you come to terms. Yeah, okay, okay. So before I go, I want to read this last quote from A Course in Miracles. And this just brought me so much closure, so much peace. And it says, I'm going to just read it from up here because I wrote it better up here on my whiteboard. Only my condemnation interests me. Only my forgiveness sets me free. Do not forget today that there can be no form of suffering that fails to hide an unforgiving thought, nor can there be a form of pain that forgiveness cannot heal. That's so powerful to me. Like, only how I feel about myself can hurt me. Only my forgiveness can set me free. There is nothing outside of me that can determine my self worth other than how I feel about me. And that's so powerful. It puts the power right back in your hands. People can call you ugly. People can call you whatever you want. They can call you gay, fat, corny, this, that, and whatever. I've been called all those things, and some of them are true. They can call you ugly. They can call you stinky, smelly, gross, poor, fat, dumb, racist, ignorant, whatever they want to call you, right? But if you connect and you say, wow, like if you, they can say whatever you want, but it's how you feel about yourself. And sometimes people know our weaknesses, they know our insecurities, so they project them back to us in a way to manipulate and to like harm us. So, you ever joked with somebody and you accidentally touched the nerve, just joking, and you were like, oh wow, like this person really snapped. Like, okay, like for me, my weight was something I was very insecure with. Still, I'm working on it. I've lost 60 pounds this year. Now that that's any part of the story, but I just want to point that out there. But one time I remember this was so triggering. I was with one of my exes, partner at the time, and they like touched, like poked my like stomach. And by this time, I had lost so much weight, and I was like really, really, really into like eating right, working out, exercising, and they like I had body dysmorphia. And they had like touched my stomach, and I got so angry, and I like threw them. I was like, "What the fuck you doing? Don't." And they're like, "What?" I was like, "Don't." That area is like, do not touch. There was nothing wrong with it. Looking back at it, like it was nothing wrong, but it was like, so I was so sensitive because I had this like shame around myself for like, oh, why did I let myself get like this? Why did I I condemned myself for not being physically attractive. In my opinion, I was not living up to my standards of beauty, and I had so much shame and guilt around that. And so when someone else pointed it out, not even realizing it, I lashed out because I had not forgiven myself. I had not accept. I could not accept nor forgive myself for my actions from childhood where I didn't necessarily. I grew up in a. I have everybody in my family fat, so it wasn't like surprise, surprise. Everybody's eating ho hos and ding dongs, and everything is fried. Everything's in butter, and then it wasn't a surprise. But anyway, me not having that compassion and love for myself, it was so like jarring when someone else noticed it because we spend so much time trying to hide the things that we don't want people to see, all our fears and all of that crap. But man, when you can like, and true forgiveness is just so powerful because nothing can hurt you once you've already healed it and you've been you've forgiven yourself, you've forgiven the other people, you've forgiven whatever it was that happened to you because that's the only way to move forward. So, you know, thank you for watching this video. Please forgive me for how long it is. See what I did there. And yeah, please leave a comment. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you think. These are very impromptu. These are just kind of like lightly scripted, but when I just start to talk, I just kind of like just go with the flow and just let whatever happens happens. And I'm really working on this, just posting these raw videos. Um, I appreciate people who edit videos. I think it's a really good skill. I'm working on it, but I think I want the rawness of the videos to come out and see how they feel. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, thank you guys. As always, drink water, be safe, and peace.